So don't consume data, don't consume content, don't consume music, movies, media that hurts your confidence, that makes you play the comparison game, because that's only going to pull you back. You have to surround yourself with people, places, things, and ideas that lift you up and empower you.
Other people are not nearly as confident as you think they are. You just don't see their struggles nearly as often as you see your own.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, weekly Next Level You live podcast for week number 90. 90. Wow. We are going to talk about how to level up your confidence. I think that when I am a guest on other podcasts, I always try to pull back the curtain, and I always start with this. I may seem very confident, I may seem quote unquote successful, but at the end of the day, I'm just a person who's trying to get better. I'm going through my own fears, I'm working through my own stuff, and you can get where I am if you're willing to put in the hard work. Alan and I realize that there are a lot of people out there who lack confidence, and when you lack confidence, oftentimes you're not giving yourself the opportunity to chase your dreams. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to have conversations that would really change your life. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to open up to a completely different life. And our goal is to help you level up your confidence today.
As always, the first 40 minutes is going to be a live podcast. The last 20 minutes will be a Q&A. Amy's behind the scenes. Wherever you are watching this live, you can submit your question, and she will anonymously read it to us. And we each have 5 points, and I'm ready when you are, brother.
I am ready. Number one, and this goes for anything, I believe. I think awareness is the first step in any change. So number one, admit that you're not where you want to be. Admit that you're not as confident as you want to be. One of the biggest parts of my story is that my girlfriend, back when I was 25 years old, left me. And when she left me, I had to take a look in the proverbial mirror and realize I was very insecure. I had a bunch of anxiety that I didn't realize I had. And the biggest one was I wasn't as confident as I believed, and I wasn't as confident as I looked on the outside. I know Alan said, I used to think you were super confident. You had a loud car, you had muscles, you had tattoos. It seemed like when you walked into the gym, you were just a badass and you didn't have any fears in the world. I believe I was doing a good job of putting that show on, but I wasn't a very confident human being. And when my girlfriend at the time left me, I had to take a long look in the mirror and realize that. And that was the first step for me. What I'm going to take everyone through today is my experience. This is what I've done over the last 5 years. And the first step for me was admitting it. I started leaning into the fact that I didn't have that confidence, and I started to explore that. I looked back into my past and realized I was a good baseball player, but I wasn't super confident. I thought I got lucky more often than not. I told Alan that. I was an all-star every year I played, but when I stepped up to the plate and the game was on the line, I was not confident that I was going to be able to get a hit. I was more afraid of striking out than I was anything else. When I was stealing bases, I was more afraid of getting thrown out than I was confident that I would be safe. So when I started to reflect into my past, I was able to connect some dots that made me understand why I made a lot of the decisions I made, and even deeper, why I got a lot of the results I got. So first step is always awareness.
So Kev, I know this is an episode and a live podcast that you wanted to do because you've come way up in your confidence since I first met you. My first question for you, brother, is what do you think has made the biggest difference over the last 5 years? And I guess for the listeners' awareness as well, anyone viewing this, how confident are you now in comparison to when you and I first started to work together?
I still definitely have days where I'm not. I won't say days. I'll say situations. I have situations where I'll be in where I start to get the, can you really do this? And you know that because you see me behind the scenes. So I would say back in the day, I was probably a 2. And I would say today it ranges depending on the situation and what's going on from a 7 to 10, depending. On the microphone in front of the camera, I'm probably the second most confident. In the gym, that's my jam. That's where I'm the most confident. But I also have the most reps, and I know we're going to talk about that. I believe the biggest difference for me is admitting it and letting other people know that too. that's kind of become part of my identity is I just show up more consistently than other people and I get results because of it. Alan, when you were getting rid of drinking, you made that part of your identity. You made sure everybody around you knew that, look, this is something I'm doing right now. I can't take part in this. Please don't offer it to me. I believe confidence is the opposite. Hey, I'm struggling with this thing right now. I would love your support in whatever way I can get it. And these are the thoughts I'm having. These are the things that I'd like to try. Are you in? And I'll go into that in one of the other points I have. I have a story about that. But I believe most people aren't willing to admit it. We've told this before on the podcast. I don't know if we've done it on the live portion, but I think this is valuable. When we used to have a couple questions for admittance to Next Level Nation, it might have been Hyperconscious Nation at the time. One of the questions was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you? Alan and I knew the people that were coming into the group. And when we looked at their answers, a lot of them were completely off from what we had known them as. Some people said they were a 10 on confidence, but they wouldn't even post on their social media. We had some other people that said they were a 0 on confidence, but if you're a 0 on confidence, I don't think you'd be willing to admit that in a Facebook group. So right. I think that's part of it too, is a lot of people are off in terms of where their actual confidence level is. And sometimes it takes you getting outside of your comfort zone or outside of the normal for you to realize how you actually feel.
What do you think is the benefit? And again, I know we have a bunch of points, but I want to make sure we hit this because I think the admittance factor is so important. Like if you hadn't admitted that you weren't confident, what do you think would have happened?
I never would have stayed on track for long enough to make progress because there wouldn't have been a big enough reason. There wouldn't have been a big enough reason. If you look at your bank account every day and there's not enough money in there and you admit, oh, wow, I don't have enough money to pay my bills at the end of the month, you're going to have way more necessity to do something about it. But if you always hide from your bank balance, you're never going to do anything about it. And we've talked about that in the money episodes and in you either get the feedback along the way or you get it all at once. You're going to get that feedback. So you might as well seek it out proactively and then proactively do something about it as well. So that's what I would say.
Fire. The first point that I have written down here is your level of confidence is measured by your belief in your own ability to achieve a desired outcome. I'm going to repeat that. So the first thing to understand is, what is confidence? What does it even mean? How do you know when you have it? Your level of confidence is measured by your belief in your own ability to achieve a desired outcome. So some people, like Kevin already mentioned, some people are super confident in the gym, but not confident in finance. Other people are super confident in their intimate relationship, but not confident in the gym. And so you have to understand the context of confidence. Nobody is just confident everywhere. And I use an example of me in the kitchen. I was cooking last night and it's actually funny. I was making some garlic bread in the oven and there was a pan in there that was really, really hot. I took it out with the oven mitts, put it on our granite stovetop or countertop. And then I put the rolls in, and then I went and accidentally, with my oven's mitts off, touched the hot pan, dropped it on the floor, and it was a whole thing. It didn't break, luckily. But Emilia was in the kitchen working, and she's like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, my bad." I'm not confident at all in the kitchen, and I don't even pretend to be. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do my best. We're going to meal prep, and we're going to figure it out. And these are decent garlic bread rolls, awesome. But I'm super confident in podcasting or in speaking or in particular coaching, reverse engineering finish lines, math, another good example. Emilia is one of the most confident women I've ever met in my entire life. Most confident people I've ever met in my entire life is what I really meant to say. But in mathematics, she's not as confident, right? So you got to understand that it's contextual. The story I wanted to give for this one, and again, your level of confidence is measured by your belief in your own ability to achieve a desired outcome. I had a client who was like, "Alan, I can't be a writer." And I said, "Of course you can. I don't know, why do you believe that?" She's like, "Well, I just don't believe I'm any good. I think I'm crap. I'm not very good." I said, "Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have you write 3 paragraphs a day." She's written 3 paragraphs a day every single day for 125 days straight. Kevin and I checked right before this. 125 days straight, she's sent me her 3 paragraphs. She's writing a blog called Dear Diary. It's not called Dear Diary. It's actually, I don't know the exact title. She's from Spain, and she's a nurse, and she's been talking about what she's going through. But she went from, I can't write, that belief, lack of confidence, to now I write every single day for the last 125 days. And now I can be a blogger. That's what's possible when you actually level up your confidence consistently over time, especially when you believe yourself and start small and let it build.
Alan, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think this is a good exercise. This live podcast that you're watching might be one of the rare times where I'm more confident than Alan, because I have dealt with this, and this is something that I've lived, where Alan hasn't really struggled with confidence in his life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you with this versus a purely business episode?
Good question. I feel less confident right now than I usually do. And I think one of the reasons, like you said, is for me, confidence has never really been a huge issue. I think arrogance has been at times an inflated view of what's possible. So I would say 0 to 10. Right now, I'm probably at about a 7.
And it requires confidence to admit that too. That's a whole nother thing we could talk about. But I think it's important to understand that it changes. That it changes depending on the avenue, depending on the arena, depending on what you're doing. And just because you lack confidence in one arena doesn't mean you do everywhere.
Right.
I think that's important. I was going to use that as a point, but I didn't put it down good.
I don't know if I've ever consciously tried to level up my confidence.
You probably haven't.
Like you and I were talking earlier, and I don't mind saying this publicly. Emilia and I are at some point going to get our PhD in neuroscience. And I was talking to Kevin about this, and it was the first he had heard of it. And honestly, I don't even think it'll be that challenging. And I know that it'll be probably harder than I think it'll be. But then we had a whole conversation about, I think academics have always just come really easy to me, and I study neuroscience anyway, so getting my PhD just feels like something I'm already doing on my own. I might as well do it formally. And then I'll have her in my corner too. So the other piece too, and I was going to say this, I think it's important to bring it up now. Some confidence, I have this written down, some confidence is actually built on awareness that you might not have yet. So let me give you an example. Let's say Emilia and I do end up following through on the PhD in neuroscience. Not only am I going to have her in my corner, and I also tend to be really academically inclined. School always came fairly easy to me. But then on top of that, I'm hardworking. I have good habits. I don't think it'll be that difficult. But like I said, when I'm cooking, I don't have any reps in that arena. I've never been a good cook. I've never even tried to be. So it all depends, and even right now, how to level up your confidence. I've never consciously put effort towards leveling up my confidence. So I don't really know. All I can go off of is what Kevin said prior to this, which is how have I helped my clients do it? And so my examples and my lessons are Kevin and my clients, because for me, I don't feel like confidence was a huge bottleneck. I feel like if anything, humility is, and humble pie is very, very important. And maybe we'll do an episode on that at some point. But right now, let's talk about building your confidence up. But I also want to say there is such thing as inflated confidence. And I think that's more of an issue for certain people on the high end of Drive to 5.
Love it. Number 2, and I'm going to tell a couple stories I haven't told. I'm going to try to. I think it's in this one. So number 2 is fear chasing. Alan asked at the beginning, what is one of the most important things that you've done, the biggest change, the biggest difference maker? This is a close second. After admitting it, fear chasing. I am afraid of basically everything I do. I just am, but I try to do it anyway. And you might look back and say, again, like Alan said, Kevin, you looked so confident. You were doing all these things. You were going to the gym. You're going out to bars. You're having fun. You're doing all these different activities. When I was going out to the bars in my early 20s, I was always drunk every single time. And do you know how I know? Because I would never go to the bar sober. I was not confident enough. So after the admittance, when my girlfriend left me, I was really trying to focus on self-improvement. And I remember saying to Alan, hey, I'd really love to go to the bar and not drink. I want to fear chase. I want to make this a test. I want to make this a challenge. And we went to the bar when I lived in New Hampshire, 10 minutes from where I currently live. And I think I had one drink. I don't remember what it was. It might have been Red Bull and vodka because that's what was going on back in the day. But I didn't get drunk. And that was the first time that I had gone to the bar and not got drunk for as long as I can remember, maybe my entire life. And that helped me build confidence. Another time, shout out to Cope Daddy if you're listening to this. Andrew invited me to England, and I already told that story. But this is the part I always forget to tell. It was the day before we were supposed to fly home. And I think I said something along the lines of, hey, we got to get to bed because we're getting up early. It might have been earlier in the trip. I don't remember. But somewhere in the trip, myself and Andrew realized that I had tickets on the day before him. Somehow the reservations got jeffed. He was flying home a day after me. And I woke up at 5 a.m, had to walk over to the O2 Center, had no idea where I was going, got on a train to take another train to Heathrow Airport in England, which is a massive airport, and I had no idea what I was doing. Now, Alan and I go through airports all the time. I'm confident in airports now. Why? Because I've done it enough. I fear chased enough. I have enough reps. I went from my first flight in a long time being international, flying home by myself, freaking out, not knowing how I was going to get home, to taking planes with Alan all the time and leading the charge in the airport. Alan just follows me and I get him to where he's going. That's because I fear chased for long enough. When you fear chase, you build confidence because you get a bunch of different experiences under your belt. And to Alan's point, one of the reasons people lack confidence is because they lack experience. And if you have a bunch of different experiences, you'll be a little bit more confident in a bunch of different arenas. The reason I'm comfortable in the gym is because I've spent thousands of hours there. I've been doing that longer than I've been doing anything else. I should be confident there by this point in my life. So understand that. If you can get a bunch of different experiences under your belt, you'll build your confidence up in a bunch of different ways, and that adds up.
I want to add this as well, because back to the point I made earlier, some confidence is built on awareness. When Kevin researched planes, he was more confident on planes because he figured out that planes are far more safe, statistically speaking, than cars.
Mm-hmm.
And so his fear of planes, his lack of confidence getting on a plane decreased. His confidence increased based on awareness. So I just wanted to draw that point as well.
Alan, real quick, I don't know yet, I might buy Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm dead serious about this. I might buy it for PlayStation and learn how to fly on Microsoft Flight Simulator to be even more confident. I'm not kidding. We live next to an airport. We live next to a small airport, and I told Taryn, I said, at some point, I think I might have to get my pilot's license or something, because then that would be the ultimate confidence. Or I'd crash into a tree, and that would be the end of it. I don't know. Hopefully it wouldn't be that, but I think it would help.
This is the first, by the way, I'm hearing of any of that. That's hilarious. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get a PhD. You're going to get your pilot's license. Cool. Yep. All right, so the second thing that I wrote down here, other people are not as confident as you think they are. You just don't see their struggles nearly as much or as often as you see your own. I'm going to say that one more time. Other people are not nearly as confident as you think they are. You just don't see their struggles nearly as often as you see your own. You're with yourself every single day. When you're off camera, when you're not on Instagram, when you're not on Facebook, when you're not on your Instagram story or Facebook story, when you're by yourself and you're struggling just to get through the day, you're there with yourself. You are not there with all your friends who you believe are more confident than you. And by the way, it goes deeper. They also tend to stay in their genius zone. People tend to go where they're the most confident. So Kevin loves to go to the gym, used to avoid the bar. So you're going to see him super confident in the gym. You're not going to see him lacking confidence in the bar. So you have to understand that it creates a skewed version of reality. And here's the best example, and I wrote this down, your Instagram feeds. Kevin and I were talking about this right before this episode. And I said, Kevin, whose Instagram feed actually shows the truth of their real life? And he said, none, including ours. Instagram, go to someone's Instagram feed who you know personally, who you know behind the scenes. And I want you to sit there and I want you to say, okay, I know their real life, and here's their Instagram feed. And this is nothing against Instagram. This is nothing against each individual. What I'm saying is Kevin and I are guilty of this too. Okay? If you know me behind the scenes, go to my Instagram feed and say, is that his real life? Or is that just an Instagram feed snapshot of his life? The answer is it's an Instagram snapshot of my life. What you have to understand is that everyone is like that. Think of a couple who you know behind the scenes is fighting all the time and is completely unhappy and is not doing well in their relationship. Think of that couple. Now look at their Instagram feeds. Look at how happy they look. Social media is not the truth. You think you're less confident than other people, which makes you even less confident, which is a negative compounding problem. When in reality, not the digital world, but the real world, you are not struggling with confidence any more than most of the other people in your life. You just don't know it because you're not there to witness it.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hurvitz. So last year I wanted to quit everything. I wanted to throw in the towel. I wanted to hang up my microphone. And Kevin said no. Kevin said, keep going, Jen. You've got this. And oh my God, I'm going to cry. And I did. Coaches need coaches, y'all. And working with Kevin has been one of the best experiences of my life. Oh my God, I'm crying. Kevin, you are the best. I could not do this without you. And thank you. Thank you for being you and the amazing human that you are.
And just to add on to that point, I have something that goes very in alignment with that. You have to stop consuming content that makes you feel bad. There's the trend right now that's going on, the 2021 wrap up, where people take a bunch of their pictures and it's played to some song. I think it's Adele. And it just cycles through 90 photos in, I think it's 60 seconds. And even myself, I am quite literally living my dream. I get paid to be a podcaster and a speaker and a coach. My life is great. I'm very grateful for that. But even myself, I find myself thinking, well, I haven't been to an island this year. I haven't been to these amazing mountains. Look at this sunset. I haven't been on a boat this year. That's the highlight. That's the highlight of that year. Nobody's going to post a picture of themselves crying into their pillow. Some people do. Some people who are very, very vulnerable and real do that and authentic. They do that as well, but it's very, very rare. And think of it this way. On my PPT, my peak performance tracking, every single day, I have what I call manifestation and visualization, where I watch 15 minutes of, it could be a sports car, it could be a mansion tour, it could be just something that inspires me, something that's super inspirational and super motivational. If I didn't feel empowered by that, and that was causing me to say, well, it must be nice. Oh, imagine what they did to get that. Oh, they must be mean because they're rich. Or it's ego-driven to have a car like that. That would take away from me. That wouldn't be empowering. That would be me looking at something, feeling bad that I don't have it, beating myself up because I can't get it, and that would be hurting my confidence, where for me, I'm imagining myself having those things, which helps my confidence. So don't consume data, don't consume content, don't consume music, movies, media that hurts your confidence, that makes you play the comparison game, because that's only going to pull you back. You have to surround yourself with people, places, things, and ideas that lift you up and empower you.
This just came to me totally random.
Sure.
But Achilles in Troy was always something that inspired me, just the physique and the athleticism and the mastery. The first time you go to the gym, don't think to yourself you're going to look like Achilles from Troy. But you can let the long term of that inspire you. In 10 years from now, if you're consistent in the gym, you actually could create that physique. And so I think macro versus micro is another really important thing here too. Speaking of macro versus micro, I wrote this down. Number 3, keep the small daily promises you make to yourself. Kevin already mentioned peak performance tracking. We talk about it all the time. We're going to talk about it even more because we've witnessed it change the lives, not only of our lives, but so many other people at this point. I mean, it's just amazing, genuinely amazing. Simple. What are the habits under health, wealth, and love that need to be done daily in order for you to achieve your goals? Reverse engineer the finish line. Track your habits. Simple habit tracker. Peak performance tracking. keeping the daily promises you make to yourself. So I have 20 clients right now, very, very blessed. And before I get on the phone with all of them, I crunch their numbers from the previous 2 weeks because I do bi-weekly coaching. So I crunch the numbers for the previous 14 days. If we missed a call, I do a whole month. But typically it's 14 days worth of data. And so what I do is I take each line item. Let's say one of them is 80 ounces of water. One of them is exercise 30 minutes. One of them is post on social media. And I crunch the last 14 days worth of data, and 100% means they did 14 out of 14. 50% means they did 7 out of 14. So I have all their numbers. I have what we call total productive output. So I go into the call, and I send it to them on WhatsApp. I say, here are your stats. Here's your KPI. Here's your TPO, total productive output. And what's your intention for today's session? We jump on the phone. We jump on Zoom. There is a direct correlation between someone's positive energy and their stats. If someone had 95% total productive output, meaning they were keeping the promises to themselves every single day, I know with pretty high certainty, unless there's some tragic circumstance, that they're going to jump on the call ready to rock, ready to crush their goals and dreams in positive energy. If someone is struggle bus and they only have 60% total productive output, I can tell that when they get on that call, I'm not surprised when they're a little bit down and they're struggling. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Sometimes I get 60% weeks. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. What I'm saying is there is a direct correlation between someone's self-confidence and their daily habits, the promises they keep to themselves daily. If you said you were going to exercise today and you don't, it is a confidence hit every time. If you say you're going to exercise today and you do, even if it's an imperfect workout, it's a confidence boost every time. That is the one thing that Kevin and I agreed in advance of this. Keeping the daily promises you make to yourself, there is no greater cheat code. It's simple, 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 but it's by far the most important. Kevin, I know he doesn't want to boast, but I'm going to do it for him. 23 positive habits per day, every day. And you're going on what? A month with 100%?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So his confidence right now is high because he's keeping the promises he makes to himself every single day. And if you did the same, even if you're imperfect, you would be confident too. So just remember that.
I want to touch on and thank you for that. I appreciate that. I want to touch on the imperfect part. When you are focusing on improving your confidence, you're getting out of your comfort zone, you're probably doing things you've never done before, you have to have a short memory. So what do I mean by that? You'll hear athletes say this a lot, particularly quarterbacks. You have to separate the outcome that you just got from the outcome that you think you're going to get next. So Alan and I are speakers or podcasters, so we do a lot of speaking into cameras and into microphones. The episode we recorded before this, Alan and I afterwards said, not our best work. Not our best work. I am just now thinking about that. I have not thought about that this entire time because when you do 833 episodes, you have a short memory. You have to. You have to have a short memory because if you're thinking about what you did before, there's a good chance it's going to happen again. I've talked many times about one of the speeches I've given where I had the kids do push-ups because I ran out of things to say. It was a panic move. Alan and I went home. We watched it. We ate Big Macs. And I said, okay, that's that. How do I make sure that doesn't happen again? How do I make sure that I do better next time? One of our events that we co-hosted together, I don't remember the actual word, but I remember I misspoke one word. I practiced for 2 weeks my presentation. I had everything dialed in. I had my PowerPoint. And I remember that I got stuck on one word. And the next time I did that speech, I tried to make sure I didn't get stuck on that word again. So understand that you have to have a short memory because you're going to get rejected. You're going to make mistakes. That's par for the course. It doesn't mean you're not good. It doesn't mean you can't be confident. It means that you have to forget about the jeffing that just occurred and make sure it doesn't happen again. Mistakes are quite literally a part of life. And the people who make the most mistakes also end up becoming the most successful. The people who fail the most also succeed the most as long as they keep going and they have a short memory.
Speaking of mistakes. No, I'm kidding. So I wanted to grab this. So Emilia got me this book for Christmas. Shout out to Kobe Bryant, The Mamba Mentality. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he used to have a specific word that he would say whenever he would miss a shot. He would say flush. Because he didn't want the next time he came up the court to be remembering and reminiscing on the fact that he just missed three pointers in a row. Because if he did that, it would affect his next shot. See, that's exactly what Kevin's talking about. I, after that last episode, was like, Kev, that was humble pie. We have new equipment. This is the first time I've ever used new equipment. Now I'm actually trying to look just directly into the camera. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. We also are trying to pull back the curtain. We're trying not to use as many filler words. Kevin and I say we say like, we say basically, we say a lot of filler words, and we're working really hard not to do that. And it's very, very humbling and very, very challenging. And so the key here is that failure, and we're doing an episode on this week, failure and success are married, and you have to understand that the only way to improve is to fail forward. But when you fail, to Kevin's point, you can't hang on to the baggage. You got to let go of that past failure and then fully lean into and be present in the next rep. And that's what I'm literally doing right now, because that last one was really challenging.
And admit that you jeffed it. And for those new listeners, viewers, jeffing means to screw up. It's a whole thing. We'll tell it on a later episode this week. You want to
tell the story?
Yeah, I used to show up to Alan's house and I would say, I am here. And one day I showed up and typed, I am here, in an autocorrect to I am Jeff. Alan said, I am also Jeff. And now we're Jeff 1 and Jeff 2. If you're Jeff, we love you. We appreciate you very much. It's also an important thing to realize that when you screw up, just admit it and then realize you're still there. Imagine if the worst possible thing happened to you and you were still alive. You forgot what you were going to say at the speech. You got rejected by that person that you wanted to approach. Whatever it may be, your potential client said no to you and you're still there. You can continue going. If the worst possible thing happens to you and you're still there, you're going to be just fine. Everything's going to be okay. My last point I want to tie to something Alan said earlier. So Alan has done a wonderful job in supporting me and giving me context that has helped me be more confident. What do I mean by that? Alan said to me today, Kev, how many people on the planet do you think track 23 habits a day, record 7 episodes a week, go to the gym 6 times a week? How many people do you think? And I said, I don't know. There's got to be some. And he said, there probably aren't that many. That gives me context. I had a client. She has 150-something thousand downloads. And when I first started working with her, she said, yeah, my show's not good. I don't have any listens. I'm not getting any clients. And I said, you have 150,000 downloads. Do you realize that most podcasts don't get anywhere close to that? They don't get to the 100, 200 episode mark. That doesn't happen. What did I do? They pretend to, yes, for sure. What did I do for her? I gave her context. Lately, I've been dabbling in a little bit of sports betting. Alan, take it easy, nothing crazy. And, okay, in football, there's a bunch of different bets you can do. And I've been doing prop bets.
I'm learning a lot on this episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna cut that part out. I live in New Hampshire, so it's totally legal. And I was talking to Taryn about this. Yesterday, and I was explaining it to her. I said, one of the bets is that the football team is going to cross the 50-yard line. I bet yes on that every single time. Why? Contextually, statistically, it happens at a very, very high rate. It happens almost every time. So if you throw $5 down, you're probably going to make $8 every single time. I have context. I have proof. There's a reason behind it. There's a statistical analysis that says that's probably going to happen. The context also, Alan referred to this earlier, my studying of planes. What does this noise make? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean when it goes beep, beep, and the flight attendants sit down? Does that mean something bad's happening? What does it mean when the engines wind down after takeoff? What do the flaps do when you lift them up? I have more context, which has brought me more confidence. So I think that's an important point. Study what you're not confident in, and you will increase your confidence.
One podcast episode that you screw up, one game that you screw up, one shot that you miss, one audio message you send that wasn't good, one text message you send that you wish you didn't. These things are not catastrophic failures. They just feel that way. And it's really, really important to build your confidence over time by just coming right back and snapping right back. Confidence is not, I can do anything, anytime, anywhere. Confidence is, I know that this is a strength of mine, and I know that even if I fail, I can figure out how to succeed eventually. Really, really important. Very last point that I have here before we go. Number 5, identify and design your life around your genius zone. I have one client in particular who is unreasonably successful on YouTube. And he and I were talking. We're trying to identify his genius zone. I have a genius zone and a genius focus in my coaching. The genius zone, the center of the bullseye for this client is speaking. That's what he does on YouTube. That's what he does on stage. I've spoken on stage with this person. He's truly unbelievable. As a matter of fact, at the event that we co-hosted, I agreed, and so did everyone that I asked, that he was by far the most powerful speaker. But he also told me, I'm not that confident coaching. I don't feel like I'm a good coach. I said, that's okay. That awareness can help you. Let's lean into speaking. Let's lean into your genius zone. So remember, don't let being bad at something that's outside your genius zone affect your confidence within your genius zone. I can name a million examples. Meryl Streep, amazing actress, 13 Academy Awards. If she's in front of a film set, she's going to feel unbelievably confident. She should not allow the fact that she's not a good gardener to affect whether or not she thinks she's a great actress. You don't want to let the confidence leak into one another. You've got to compartmentalize, just like I don't want to let the fact that I'm not a good cook affect the fact that I am a great coach. So find your genius zone, identify your genius zone, and then don't let the confidence in your genius zone dwindle because of things that really aren't meant for you anyway.
And there's a lot of crossover too. I remember the first speech I went to, Alan spoke at in Boston. It was a really, really nice hotel. There was some amazing speakers there. And at the end, and we had been podcasting together at that point. I don't know how long it was, but we had been podcasting together. And at the end, somebody came up to me and said, hey, do you want to do a video testimonial? And I was scared for sure. I was fear chasing. I was definitely getting out of my comfort zone. But the fact that I have spent so much time speaking and podcasting in front of the microphone carried over. That crossed over. We went to an event in Florida and somebody came up to me and said, hey, do you want to do a video testimonial? And I didn't even think about it twice. I should have thought about it more, honestly, because the event wasn't worth the testimonial I gave. But I digress. But 5 years ago, that would have scared me. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I genuinely would have made up an excuse of I have dinner waiting or I have to go to the bathroom, whatever it may have been at the time. Because I have focused so much on this, in the craft of this, in Alan and I not saying like basically whatever it may be, you've probably noticed a fair amount of pauses from me longer than usual because I'm trying not to say like but basically whatever it may be. So you might cross over your genius zone into other arenas and you'll have a little bit of a head start. When Alan and I are in a room and there's a potential to raise your hand and ask a question, we have 833 reps that says we're probably going to be a little bit more confident than somebody who is asking their first question. When we went to Influencer, you and I were standing on our chairs raising our hand to ask Tom Bilyeu a question. Mm-hmm. Because we both felt, I'm sure you felt this probably before, but I felt that I was ready to actually do it, finally. I wanted to get outside of my comfort zone a little bit more. And that's the last thing I'll leave here with. I think we have a minute left. Recognize where your comfort zone is, get outside of it, but don't get into your anxiety zone. Constantly push the boundary on your comfort zone and fear chase, but don't go too far, because if you go too far, you're going to be dealing with anxiety and you're going to have a negative reaction and you're going to have an aversion to doing it in the future. I remember Alan and I went and saw Lori Harder. She had a book signing in Boston and we went. And when we went, I told Alan, I said, I have to ask a question. It was Alan, myself, and probably 200 women, and Lori. And there were very few men in the crowd. And that was terrifying. But I said, I have to get outside of my comfort zone. We're here. Let me just ask a question. It might be the worst question ever. It might not make any sense. It is what it is. I'm going to do it. And that helped me tremendously as well. And then Lori laughed at me when I dropped my book when we were taking a picture with her. So that was a whole thing as well. Anything to add, Alan, before we bring in the wonderful Amy?
One last point, and I wrote this down, and Kevin and I talked about this earlier. Some confidence is built on awareness you might not have yet. I said that earlier. But I wanted to use this analogy because when Kevin was younger, I don't know how old you were, but you made $11 an hour as a gas station attendant, actually not far from my house right now, right? See, if Kevin took his level of success at that point and then let that leak into his confidence, when I say your confidence shouldn't be based on something that you might not be aware of yet, here's what I mean. At that age, did Kevin know that he'd be making $1,800 an hour in a speech? Our highest paid speech was $1,800 in 1 hour, Kevin and I virtually. It was at Alpha Chi Rho, my old fraternity, national fraternity. And don't base your confidence entirely on the now. You got to base it on the trajectory. If you have a really high positive trajectory, and here's the thing that I want to make clear. I made $7 an hour as a cart kid and a bus boy back at a golf course when I was 16 years old. You better believe that I probably had some struggles with confidence back then. If I was basing my success at that moment, if I was basing my confidence on the success at that moment. You need to look at the aggregate. You got to look at the trajectory. Everyone makes very little money when they're young. There's very few 14-year-old billionaires. There's very few 14-year-olds who make $150 an hour as a business consultant. Some of them are out there, and you got to be careful of those comparisons. But the key here is to understand the compound effect over time. Just because you're not successful now doesn't mean your confidence should reflect that. I'm going to say that one more time. Just because you're not successful now does not mean your confidence should reflect that. What if you're going to be very, 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 very successful? Last example, and we'll go. I know a podcaster who's very new. They are far ahead of where we were when we were at our 1 year mark. And they're seeing us with all this success, 20 clients all over the world, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, big team, amazing. What they don't realize is they're actually way ahead of where we were. We're just 5 years in. So remember, confidence needs to be built over time, and you can't just look at one snapshot in time. Kev, I got to go to the bathroom. And
you have to go to the bathroom? I don't believe it. Let's bring Amy in. I can't. I'm not going to hang out in here by myself like Steven Glansberg. Amy, what's happening?